Uh, so hello and welcome everyone to today's Foundation Forum call. For those of you new to these calls, the Foundation Forum, the Interagency Task Force on Israeli-Arab Issues, convenes American Jewish philanthropists and funding professionals for dedicated learning about strategic developments related to Arab citizens of Israel. Today, we are very, very fortunate to have with us three speakers who will each share insights about efforts to expand the paths available to young Arab adults after high school in Israel, how these relate to future employment opportunities in general for them, and the urgency and opportunities now present due to the current economic crisis. We are delighted to have with us Hassan Tawafra, the new director of the Authority for Economic Development for the Arab Sector in the Ministry of Social Equality. Hassan has filled the long vacated spot of the authority's founding director, Ayman Saif. We're very excited to welcome him and both have him speak about these issues as well as have an opportunity to introduce himself and his vision for this important authority. After Hassan, we'll hear from Dr. Nasreen Hadad Haj'Yahya, the Director of Jewish-Arab Relations at the Israeli Democracy Institute, partner at the Portland Trust, and principal at NAS Consulting, as well as many other things, a changemaker extraordinaire. Nasreen did seminal research on the issue, the phenomenon of NEET, young adults not in education, employment or training. And she'll present insights from this research and how COVID-19 exacerbated existing disparities. Finally, we're delighted to have Ariel Dloomy, co-executive director at Ajik Nisped. Ajik Nisped currently runs the largest gap year program for Arab young adults, and Ariel will present insights from developing and implementing the current model and the challenges and opportunities for making these programs available nationally at this time. With no further ado, I'm delighted to welcome Hassan Tawafra to introduce himself and speak to the group. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Leon, and hi, everyone. Thanks for having me with you today. So it's my first time with you. So let me introduce myself and my role in a few words, and then I will get to the gap year. So my name is Hassan Tawafra, and I live in Jerusalem. Originally, I'm from the north, Maghar village, a small village in the north of Israel. I have been working in the public sector for 12 years now. In my last position, I was the CFO of the Government Companies Authority, which is a unit in the Ministry of Finance. We take care for the government companies. And today, since December 2020, I'm the head of the Authority for Economic Development of the Arab minority. And the authority in favor of those among us who are not familiar with is responsible for the social economic development of the Arab society. So in Israel, as you may know, we are more than 21% of the Israeli population, but we faces and deals with considerable challenges as an Arab minority. And that's preventing either the Arab society and on the whole market to maximize the economic growth potential. And that is the reason that the government decided to establish the authority. And in my vision, the authority's role is to lead processes, to eliminate obstacles, to remove boundaries, and to promote holistic programs in order to achieve the social and the economic prosperity that we're looking for, to reduce the gaps between the Arab and Jewish, and to integrate the Arab minority in the Israeli society and economy. And Ilan told me before that there's among us some that interested to know more about 922 plan. So I can just mention in few words that 922 plan is, as you know, adopted in 2015, the plan that it was one of the largest programs that led by the authority. It's more than 15 billion shekel. And this program was supposed to be to end in 2020. So, and we just have been extended for another year, as you know, due to the political and the budget crisis that we have in Israel. Hopefully we will have a government after 4 elections in the last 2 years, and nowadays we are working very hard in more than 10 teams to prepare the new plan that we want to put in the government table as soon as possible, that will cover the years to 2022 to 2026. This is my main role in these days, and I hope so to make it. And in preparing the new plan, we decided very early to focus in the young Arab people, and that's because according to the data, and Dr. Nasreen Hadad Haj'Yahya will show that next to me, that I believe that the Arab young people, both the males and the females, more the males than the females, but both are experiencing a big crisis. And one of the most indicator that we have, that also Nasreen will show you next to me, about how many people are young Arab people that literally does nothing. And it's not politically correct to say that. Nasreen will say, call NEET people that we have in the Arab society. But this indicator and other indicators that we know, that like the decreasing rate employment among the Arab men and etc. And this phenomena, as expected, increase the violent cases reported to the police among the young people. And I think when we analyze this situation, we should look at the formal education system. And when we look at these young people after graduation from high school, a young Arab person is expected to make a major decision about his future. And however, due to the poor education system that we have in our towns and villages, in the Arab towns and villages, young Arabs don't have the basic skills to deal with the tough challenges that they have after high school, and they lack the skills to make decisions and to take responsibility about their lives. And furthermore, the young Arab are probably not aware to their options after high school. Some of them going in a traditional path that their parents decide before, or their comfort zone that they feel in. And so if we look at this type of people, the people between 18 to 24, we can also say that they lack other basic skills, like the confidence to stand in front of audience and to speak fluently in Hebrew, and to make a decision to leave the town outside, because we don't have campuses or enough places to work in our villages, so they need to leave and to manage an independent life in their next step after high school. And if we just look in comparison to the Jewish people, that they have a lot of options after high school, like they have a different path in comparison to our people. They are going to serve in the IDF, traveling around. They have a lot of program, right? like pre קדם צבאי ומכינות, כל מיני programs that making them preparing them to the IDF and other. Yeah, thank you, Liron. And only after they're feeling mature, they integrate either in the market or in the academic field. And in the other side, among the Arab people, we try to access to the market or to the academic field so early, and that putting the Arab people in disadvantage position compared to the Jewish people. To their colleagues, and in my opinion, it's more likely to fail, to say that. And in my opinion, the gap year solution is an excellent way to close these gaps. And I looked for different models that we have in Israel, specifically to a GIC model that I think Ariel elaborate in next to Nasreen. And in my vision, these models of the gap year models should give the youth after the high school the opportunity to enhance and to gain new necessary skills that they need to build themselves and to close the gaps between them and between the Jewish people. And in my opinion, each gap year program should have three main factors that we need to success in this mission. First of all, the first thing and the first important thing is to enhance the soft skills that they need. As I said before, how to present in front of audience, how to be critical, how to ask questions, how to lead processes, how to work in team. And I believe in most of these skills we can gain through volunteering in the right places that we can develop in our towns or outside. The second thing is to try to make in this gap year to expose the youth to new worlds. It's like to see what happened outside, to see what is the new careers path that we have, the role models that we have, the new industries in Israel, and what the job market need to success in your life. And the idea, in my opinion, is to expose them too many options that they have, to give him the option to decide what is matching their skills, their expectation about their future, and not to be limited to the traditional choices. And the third thing, last thing, is to try in this year to enhance the hard skills like the Hebrew language, the digital orientation, and as you know, these skills considered to be very, very important in the labor market. And I think that's it. I hope that I expressed myself clearly and made it clear how important to develop gap years in Israel and to upscale the program that we have here. And hopefully we can meet in the future, you know, face to face, not just remotely, to make things happen. So thank you for having me again, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Hassan. We'll keep going, but I'm sure we'll come back and ask you about in what ways, what are the opportunities for, what are the opportunities through your office to make these programs, to advance these programs, to push them forward. And now, but let's keep going, and I'll invite Nasreen, who started sharing her screen, to give us some of the research.
Hi, good morning.
Over to you.
Thank you, Liron. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. Well, there is no need to introduce myself, right, Liron? I believe that this group have met me so many times. So
correct.
Okay, so as Hassan said, as you can see here, while young Jewish people after high school have a set of many options and many institutions where they can integrate and prepare for adult life, this is very lacking in the Arab society. Well, the first set of challenges is related to internal issue inside Arab society. The first is the lack of maturity and weak Hebrew skills, as Hassan said, because young Arab don't have many life experience or opportunities to speak Hebrew by the age of 18. We can also see the different expectations from young women, from young men and young female in the Arab society. The second set of challenges related to external issue of Israeli society and Israeli economy. Among them, we can see the weakness and the peripherality of Arab localities and geographic distance, for example, discrimination, racism. We divided, when we did this research, me and Meirav Shaviv from Kennedy School of Harvard, we divided our young people to four different groups of categories. We found out that the situation is more complicated. And we need to look inside each category to see where are the people at risk. In some cases, people we will think about as a risk group because they are not studying, are really trying to better their chances to success, for example, by taking private courses or by making their psychometry test to prove their psychometry degree. and other times, universities, for example, universities graduated who we don't think about it as a high risk. We don't, and they don't integrate in the labor market, but they are, for example, in a risk group because they don't succeed to integrate in the labor market even after investing several years in the higher education system. Well, here we can see very clearly the gaps between Arab men and Arab women in the NEET, with Arab women more than twice the rate of Arab men. However, if we look at historical process, well, I wrote my PhD. I started to write my PhD at 2012 or 13, and I've been looking at the numbers for 10 years. And as you can see here, if we look about the historical process, we can see that the rate of women in NEET decreased from over 52% to around 40%, as you can see here on the slide, while the rate of Arab men in NEET was little over 20% and decreased only few points. So this is very concerning for us because, as you know, as the Arab society is very traditional, and we know how to protect our female, and the possibility that Arab female will integrate in crime families or crime institutions is very, very low. But we don't know how to control our young male, and if we talk about numbers here, so every fifth young male there's a high possibility that he will integrate in the crime world. Okay. Same in the same way, here we look at the issue of social mobility, and we can clearly see that young people coming from weaker families have a higher risk of being in the NEET group. And here we look at the socioeconomic level of the communities of youth, and again we can see that there is a barrier here for social mobility, since people from a weaker background are more represented in NEET. One more look, and this time at the gaps between religious groups within the Arab society. The graph might seem a little complicated, but you can see that highest level of NEET are among Muslim, and also that with each of the subgroups, you can see that people who define themselves as more religious, there's more possibility there's more possibility that they will be defined as NEET. Here, it's very important for me to explain to you that the Druze male go to IDF, and that is the reason that we have a very low NEET among young Arab Druze. And if we look about the Christian group, I don't know if you know that, but the majority of the Christian people go to private school, and we know that there is a connection between the quality of education and between the chances to be NEET. For example, and if we dig into the number and we look at Muslims that study in Christian private school, we see that there is almost no NEET in this group. So we need, according to the meetings that I had early with the SVF about the importance of making the education system function in a better way, because I believe this is the key. If we want to make a real change in the Arab society, we need to deal with the education system. And if we want to summarize the profile of NEET, you can see here we have more females than male. We have lower cluster location, a lower level of parents' education, lower socioeconomic status, a lower level of education, more Muslims and Christian and Druze, and educated in Arab-speaking public school. Unfortunately, the chances, not unfortunately, but the chances of someone of Arab, of a Muslim that went to Christian private school or to Hebrew or to the Hebrew education system, most probably they won't. They will succeed to integrate in the labor market and in the higher education system. So I'll stop here, Liron. I've been asked to speak shortly, and I've done it.
Thank you. This is a complex issue where the research is only half the story. And Hassan, I know that you unfortunately have another meeting to go to. You want to say a few words, please? And I just want to tell the group that we're planning on having you back in June for a conversation about 923. At that time, there will be more to know and more to speak about, including how this issue integrates. So please.
Yeah, Liron, so unfortunately I have to leave to another commitment. I will be with you in June to speak more about our new plan, the 5 years plan. So thank you again, and I can answer any question by email. If Phelan sent me, we can also make the connection by email. And just I want to say that it's a very important issue in the Arab society. So if we can make it together, it will be great. So thank you again, and see you soon.
Thank you so much, Hassan. I'm sure we'll be sending you questions, and speak again soon. So, okay, now Nasreen, thank you to you for your research and for sharing it with us. Now we're going to transition to Ariel and talk about the implementation models, and then we'll really appreciate having both of you field questions and discuss what the options are and opportunities today when there's greater urgency.
Thank you very much, Liron. It's great being here. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to speak about what we believe is a good and proven solution to the challenges that were presented both by Hassan and Nasreen. We believe that a gap year model, a variety of gap year models in the Arab society could lead to higher rates of higher education and higher rates of employment in the Arab society. As I said before, and I will show in a minute, it's also a proven solution. First, let's talk about the opportunity. I think that the timing now is quite amazing to promote a gap year solution. It's good because there are unfortunately very high rates of unemployment among young adults in the Arab society, and now even more as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. The government is more and more interested in finding solution to the employment challenge in Israel in general and in the Arab society in particular. And we can show them that gap year programs can increase the chances and the job opportunities. The second opportunity, again, unfortunately, it's the high violence rates in the Arab society. Between now and the beginning of the year, 46 people were murdered in the Arab society, 12 of them only in the last months. Quite unbelievable. Almost every day we hear about incidents of violence, and we believe that prevention of violence can be done through education and informal education programs, such as the gap year program. And the last, or one before the last opportunity, is a greater support of the Arab leadership to the gap year model, both the political leadership in the Knesset, but also mayors. And we have been meeting mayors from all around the country in the past few years, and there is a greater support than ever for a gap year model. Now, to all these three opportunities, I will add another huge opportunity, and unfortunately, Hassan just left. But a month ago, the government has passed a new resolution as part of the prevention of violence resolution for the Arab society. And Hassan was behind this. And for the first time, they defined a new term, a transition year, or a gap year model for the Arab society, as opposed to national service that was used until today. And this creates a great opportunity to introduce new models that were structured, prepared, bottom up from the society, from NGOs, organizations like AJIC, and other, not models that were imposed by the government, and models that are accepted on the Israeli, on the Arab society as a whole. We think, as I said before, there should be more than one model of gap year, because we are talking about a target audience that is diverse. Not everybody wants to go to higher education, not everybody wants to go to vocational training. So we should propose several options. In AJIC, we are looking at three different options. The one that is directed to needs, the ones that are not in employment, education, or training, the group that Nasreen has researched. And we think that over here, it should be a model that should concentrate mainly on soft skills, Hebrew, preparing people for the world of work, and for vocational training. And we are planning just after the Ramadan to start the first pilots of these programs. The other type of programs should be directed into students who have high academic skills and want to study the STEM professions, science, technology, engineering, medicine. We are already operating two programs like that are called Bridge Tech, that are supporting kids to go to study majors that are relevant to the high-tech sector. And very soon in the summer, we are going to open another one for paramedical professions that are in a huge need, mainly in the Negev. And the third, and I think the biggest model that we have tried so far is called Talia, pioneering in Hebrew, pioneering in English, Chalutziyut in Hebrew. And this is I would say, the mainstream model, a model that gives another push to people that has the potential to go to higher education and to change the route of their life. When I say a Talia gap year model, I'm talking about several components. First of all, we are talking about a full year program, 12 months, running all the way from around August to July next year. It's 5, sometimes even 6 days a week. And we are talking about a group model. It's not one person who is placed to replace the secretary in a hospital, for example. Like in the national service, we're talking about group model that support each other. The main three components are preparation for higher education and employment. It includes Hebrew, SAT preparedness course, English, soft skills, and so on. The second segment is social engagement. Hassan spoke about volunteering, and we believe that volunteering is a huge tool for self-empowerment. It's a huge tool to get to know yourself, get to know your identity, and to become an active citizen. And the third component of the model is, I think, self and group empowerment, improving the sense of ownership, improving yourself, your identity, and all the soft skills that are needed for people later on to interact when they come to university, when they come to a workplace. So few words about our achievements so far. We are now operating this model, the Talia model, in 11, now even more than 11 localities around the countries, not just in Negev, but also in central Israel and in the Galil. The model has been operating for even more than 10 years. And so far we have 3,500 alumni. And in the past year or two, we are standing at an average of around 450 participants every year. When we look at their achievements over the years, we see that 86% of them found job after the program and after higher education. We are speaking about 75% of the graduates, today it's even higher, that go to higher education. And many of them, 85%, that indicate increase in self-confidence. And many of them even continue to volunteer and to be engaged socially. When looking at the value of this program, not just to the young adults, but also to the government. And when we're looking at ROI calculation, what we save in terms of allowances, what we earn in terms of tax that these people will pay, we found out that the return on investment in this program is around 16 months. This is a very, very short ROI on such an investment. So it's the benefit both of the government and of the young adults in the Arab society. Looking forward, and this will be my last slide, we want to see how we turn these 450 young adults that participate every year in our program to many, many thousands of people that will participate. We see three stages. The first stage is the proof of concept, which I think that we are done. We can check this and say that for the past 10 years, we have tried the model. The model has been evaluated by external evaluators. All of us see that there is a great potential here to increase employment, to prevent violence, and to increase higher education. We believe that the next stage for scaling up should be a joint venture between philanthropy and the government. And this is something that we have been discussing over the past few months with Hassan and his team and the Ministry for Civil Equality. We believe that by proposing a joint venture in the next few years, we will be able to make sure that the model that started in the civil society will transit into the government in a professional way. And we will make sure that the quality of the model is remained. And on the third stage, we believe that the government should seize a full control over the model. They should, we believe, create a tender and operate the model and scale it up to around 10,000 participants, not through a JIC, but through several other providers from the civil society that have proven their quality. So just to sum up, my kids are young, but they haven't graduated from high school yet. But when I look at my nephews and I see that when they graduate from high school, they have so many opportunities. They can go to gap year in one of the youth movements in Israel. They can go to national service. They can go to military service. I think that we should also provide this opportunity to each and every graduate of high school in the Arab society, provide a variety of opportunities. This is not just for the benefit of the Arab society. It's not just a moral imperative, but it's also the interest of the Israeli government. Liron, I think I'll stop here and we'll be happy to get questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we'll open it up to questions. You can put it in chat if you want to speak or raise your hand if there's, but I'll start with a question. Tell us, if you can tell us a little bit about the lay of the land. How many, beyond the AJIC program, how many gap year programs are there? And beyond the 450 that are currently working with AJIC, how many other young Arabs are part of a gap year program that really gives them these kind of skills? And when you're talking about expanding the model, how does that mean how will that include other organizations? Meantime, I invite anyone to let me know if they want to, let me know on chat if they want to ask a question.
Ariel, do you want to answer?
You can go ahead, Nasreen. I think you have other, a broader glance at the other organizations operating in the field.
Thank you. Well, Liron, we have done mapping for Gandir Foundation last year. Not in my head, not at IDI, but at NAS Consulting. And what we found is that in all different programs, I'm not talking about the Shirut Leumi, okay? If we take
So not national civil service. That's what she'll do.
Yeah, exactly. If we take 6 different years, Shisha Shnatonim.
Yeah.
Shisha Shnatonim, Ilan.
Shisha Shnatonim.
Group years.
6 cohorts. 6 cohorts.
Okay.
Thank you. And we talk about 240,000 young Arab male and female. Only 3,000 are going to different gap years. So, and the majority of those programs are relate. They don't. I can't the foundation comes from the philanthropic board, and I believe that because of the ROI, this investment should be done by the government of Israel. I don't believe that the philanthropic here did a job. Well, all those programs, all the gap years program is like startups, and now the philanthropic need to do it exit, and the government should adopt it, and I'm sorry, I can't find the word. I understand that הכוונה שלי בעצם שהפילנתרופיה צריכה לעשות פה אקזיט, ומי שצריך לממן את הפעילות הזאת מאלף ועד תף זה בעצם מדינת ישראל. כי ה-ROI פה הוא מאוד מאוד חיובי, וכל השקעה שנעשית במסגרת השנת מעבר, המדינה מרוויחה מאות אלפי שקלים, גם מתשלומי מיסים וגם ממשרות היקפיות שנעשות על כל משרה שנוצרת במשק.
So because the ROI is so self-evident on gap year investments, Nasreen really believes that this is something that the government should scale, that philanthropy has created the model and shown its value, and that this is that only the government can really take it to scale. But on even with, I think you were talking about the return on investment on an individual basis. Let me know if I missed something essential in the translation, but this is a group of philanthropists, and you said that that philanthropy should do an exit. The thing is, in our experience, historically, there's always, even with an exit, there's been a role for philanthropy to support effective implementation of government plans. The government can often do budgets, but government can often create plans, but that in the implementation of those, there is often barriers that we discover that where philanthropy can then take their support to the next level. Do either of you have something to say about that? Because I know that that's the question that's burning for a lot of people in the room. And then we have questions coming in on chat, so I'll stop talking after that. Ariel, Nasreen?
So I agree with you, Liron. I think that philanthropy eventually should exit and move the responsibility to the government of Israel. But I believe that there should be an intermediate time where philanthropy, together with NGOs, will make sure that the transition from the civil society to the government is done in a professional way. We have seen over the years that models, even in different fields, like employment, for example, that were developed in civil society, when transitioned to the government, in many cases, they lost the quality because they just opened the tender. It was open to any kind of implementers, and nobody said that, an organization, settlers organization, for example, can come and ask to implement gap year models in the Arab society. According to law, nothing will stop them from doing so. So it needs few more years in order to establish the model on the ground and then transition fully to the government. So what we're suggesting in Najib is for the next 3 to 4 years to set up a joint venture, both philanthropy and the government, and then in the end of this period to transition fully to the government and open it to other implementers.
Thank you.
To be accurate, I didn't mean that the philanthropic board should do exit right now. Otherwise, it will be a disaster, because if it will leave it, I don't believe that the government will adopt it. And we need a shared venture in the last at least 5 years. But this is a short time.
Okay, thank you. We have a bunch of questions. Ronnie Rubenstein.
So first of all, great presentation, and many of us have been thinking about this and working in this kind of area for years, like the Opportunity Fund. And I'm kind of curious if so I know you've touched on this already, but I want to highlight, do you see a change in the attitude of the government on this issue, in that this actually has been piloted and successfully piloted? And so I'm curious if you actually see a change in approach, and whether the government is considering taking all the benefits that go to people who serve in the Army and National Service and apply it afterwards to people who would do a gap year.
Ariel?
Ronnie, what I can say is that when you read the midterm evaluation report of Government Resolution 922, with regards to the national service, there is a huge criticism, not from Ajik and not from Nasreen, about the national service. And this is the Prime Minister office saying that. And they are suggesting that a new model of a gap year of Shnat Ma'avar should be adopted. So I see a change in the attitude on the part of some government offices. Of course, the national service is not doing it very, very happily, but Hassan, and again, I'm speaking about him when he's absent, but he worked very, very hard behind the scenes in the past few months to make sure that in the new government resolution, the term transition year that is more acceptable on the Arab leadership will be accepted. So there is no full answer to this about the government. I see bigger and bigger parts of the government understanding that we have to adopt new models.
Thank you. I'm going to invite Barbara, but I'm also going to bundle the two other questions for the sake of time. Batya asked about the difference between academic preparatory programs funded through 922 and how these are different from the gap year model that is being presented here. And Rebecca Katz-White is asking not only about the demand for more gap year programs, does there also need to be focus on increasing the demand among young people, if I understood correctly, Rebecca. So if you can, I'll remind you of those if needed, but Barbara, your question, please.
Great, thanks for including me. My first question is very greedy, and that is, since there's new language about a transition year, is there any possibility of that becoming a 2-year gap program? Because what we know in the States in gap programs and what we know from Desert Stars and so many other programs is that you can't do it all in a year. And if there's a way to, from the start, increase our capacity to put more in there, that would be amazing if there's any flexibility there. And my second set of questions has to do with the balance or the tension between learning English and learning Hebrew and all the other demands on students, and how maybe those of us from the States have a role to play in thinking that through, and also whether there's a role for American students who are in Israel to somehow enter this mix, because there are so many and they're native English speakers, and maybe they have something to bring to the table. Thanks.
who wants to begin?
Ariel, تفضل.
Shukran, Nasreen. So many questions. So with regards to the demand to the program, I don't see any problem. Now we have huge demand, much more than the supply that we can provide. This summer, we're hopefully going to open another 2 to 3 groups in the Negev and in the north, and the demand is much, much higher. Mayors are calling, they want to open groups in their communities, and the only thing that stops us from doing it so vastly is funding. With regards to Barbara's question, we believe in a JIC that there is a need, at least in the Negev, and the situation in the Negev is a bit different than the situation in northern Israel, but there is a need for more than 1 year. The problem is that, and I don't know if many of us remember when they were 18 years old, 1 year looks so long. So at the age of 18, telling them to do 2 years is very, very difficult. What usually happens is that after they finish the first gap year, then they are ready to consider another year. And over here in some academic institutions, there is the Gate to the Academy program. And we really encourage them not to go directly to university, but to go to Gate to Academy program. And then they have a much more easy transition into university. The American students, yes, definitely. That could be a really good idea. Today, with regards to Hebrew, we are matching gap year students from the Arab Society with students from mainly Ben Gurion University and other academic institutions. And once a week, they speak over Zoom. Spoken Hebrew, it's great. It really helps them to practice the Hebrew that they study in class. And same can be done with English. We are very, very happy to consider this kind of partnership with young adults from the US or the UK. It could be great.
Really, if I want to add, Barbara, what our young adult need is hope. I know they have problem in English and in Hebrew, but they don't have hope for a better future. They don't have hope to integrate in the Israeli economy. They don't have hope to build their homes without the state of Israel fight against our community. You know, I know that we are not here to talk about political issue, but actually 73 years after establishing the state of Israel, and our young people see that we are not legitimate at the Israeli political. Our parties are not legitimate. I believe that this do a lot of damage more than knowing to speak Hebrew or to speak more English, and we need to fight against the illegitimacy that our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have done to the Arab society. We cannot accept the fact that people know here, our young people understand and believe that they are second-class citizens. Okay, this is something that we shouldn't accept, and we need and what we all need, not only our young people, but especially them, because today my generation had succeeded to get to universities, and when I look at the young generation, a lot of part of them, when we look at statistics and numbers, when we ask them about if you want to integrate in the Israeli society and in the Israeli economy, large part of them say no, because they don't want us in. And we need to, the Arab society and also the Jewish society in Israel need to להושיט יד to our young generation and give them a healthy future orientation, because without this, I believe that we will keep in our, we will stay in our place, and when the Arab when our young people do not integrate in the labor force, it's a lose-lose situation to the economy, to the state of Israel, and also for the Arab society. I believe that all of you know how we suffer from the crime, especially the last 4 or 5 years. And today, only the Arab society suffer from this phenomenon. But I believe that in 2 or 3 years, every citizen of Israel, Jews or Arabs, will suffer from the violence issue. And I really hope the state of Israel will start. And I believe that it start to think more logically and to understand that it's a lose-lose situation. But it's a long way. It's a long way to go. And I believe that institutions and NGOs like AJIC is doing a huge job. I don't want to give marks to my friends here, but they are doing an amazing job in changing the mindset of the government here. To them, I believe that we will all have a better future, especially the younger generation.
Thank you so much. I think that was a really clear articulation of connecting something as abstract as sense of belonging to something so concrete as employment, safety, future economy. I thank you. I don't think I can ever hear that enough. As a last question, unless other people have more, we have a couple of minutes left. Can you both speak about the role of local authorities with implementing gap year programs, where this is now perhaps there's greater receptivity, what their role is, and what about capacities, and what their role is in implementation?
Ariel, شلخة.
It's hard to speak after Nasreen now. Thank you, Nasreen. It was very, very strong. So local authorities could be huge partners, but they could also be an impediment. Depends on the authority. Strong authorities, and many of them that are now partnering with us, that want the program, that even are willing to pay, at least for the coordinator of the group or part of the expenses. This is where you see a huge success, when you have a support from the mayor and from his staff. In other municipalities, it's much harder, and sometimes you really feel that you have to fight your way and to convince the municipality that they should have this kind of service. So it's really, really different from one place to another. What I think should be in the model when going to scale up is that we have to do it in partnership with the local authorities, but not leaving it in their hands totally. So it should be operated by organizations in cooperation and coordination with the local authorities, but not fully dependent on the authorities.
Thank you. Other questions from the room? Ilan, additional thoughts? You've done a lot of work around this call.
Hi. Yeah, only thing I would add as a question maybe is how in the future, so the idea is to implement the model and in the future expand it and to slowly transfer the model to the government's management or direct authority by the government, governmental agencies, offices, maybe local authorities. Can you maybe elaborate a bit about that? So what's the exit strategy, how the transfer should look like? In what point would you say, okay, this is successful, this is working, we can launch this to the hands of governmental agencies, authorities? So how does that happen? Nasreen, Ariel?
Maybe?
What will happen in the next few months is that the work is going to be splitted between two government offices. The Employment Authority in the Ministry of Welfare is going to issue a tender for gap years that are more directed towards employment, with emphasis on the needs, on people who are not in employment, education, and training. And the Ministry of Civil Equality, the one that Hassan belongs to, will probably work to advance the gap year programs that are more directed into social involvement and higher education. According to the government resolution, Hassan's office received 4 months, 120 days to come up with the model. So they have another, I guess, 90 days, around 90 days left to present their model. So this is what I think going to happen really in the next few months with regards to the government. As I said before, in order to make a smart transition, we should look at the next years as a joint venture, and at the same time also to establish a research and evaluation center for gap year programs, a national research and evaluation center that will make sure that the quality of the program is very, very high. And whenever new implementer is coming into the program, he should be monitored and evaluated all the time. Otherwise, it could very easily slide into a low quality programs. And it takes only one cohort, one unsuccessful cohort in a town to ruin the name of the program. So the quality of the program is really, really important.
Is there a role for a training institute that would not just evaluate the programs, but help everybody get started in it?
So when I said research and evaluation, another arm of this we believe should be a training center, but the training should be left, this is my opinion, should be left with the organization. They should have the guidance from a central place, a center, but they should have also the capacity to develop themselves and to adapt the programs to the current realities, because in each one of the villages, in each one of the towns, in each one of the areas, the situation is a bit different. So like a Pareto, we should make 80% the same for all the programs and leave at least 20% of the type of the program to the local implementers to adapt to the local realities.
So it is 1 o'clock, and I know a lot of people have a hard stop. So it's there's a lot of directions that this can still go, and I'm sure a lot of questions. Please send questions to us to continue the conversation, and we'll make the connections. This is just getting going. I'm sorry to give it a hard stop, but Nasreen has yet another board meeting to go to. So without great elegance, thank you everyone for joining. I'm happy to leave it with a desire for more. We'll see you again very soon. Thank you to the speakers.
Thank you so much.
Nasreen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Those that are still on, do you have additional questions you want to follow up?